I had lived on this quiet street for nearly 20 years. My house sat at the edge of town, surrounded by a little grove of trees and a well-maintained water line that ran from my property to the main connection. It was private, paid for, and I'd kept it in perfect working order. The HOA, however, had never liked me. It started small. Complaints about water usage, minor letters threatening fines, and casual visits from Karen, the HOA president, always with that smirk that meant she thought she had power over me. I tried to ignore it, until one morning I noticed heavy construction equipment near my property. The HOA was building a row of new homes, directly over the water line I had spent years installing. My heart sank as I saw the backhoe dig, not 2 feet from the pipes. I ran outside shouting, but the foreman just waved me off. HOA says it's fine. You're in their way. I called the city inspector, my voice tight with anger. They're building over my water line, I said. Unauthorized, illegal. You need to see this. The inspector came that afternoon, clipboard in hand. He knelt by the trench, running his hands over the pipes. You're right, he said grimly. They've compromised the line. If they continue, it could cause serious damage and liability will fall on them. I knew I had to act fast. I tried talking to the HOA board, showing them the legal documents proving my line was private property. Karen laughed, waving her hand dismissively. Rules are rules. You'll have to move your line if it interferes with development. 2 days later, heavy rains came. Torrential storms, the kind that soak the ground and test every drainage system in town. At first, I watched nervously from my porch as water ran along the streets. Then suddenly a loud crack echoed across the neighborhood. The first street had given way. Asphalt buckled, water gushed from the exposed pipes, and several houses shook as the earth collapsed beneath them. People screamed, running to higher ground. Construction vehicles toppled into the mud. I stood back, watching the chaos unfold. The city inspector arrived, shouting over the wind. Your line! It diverted water under their new houses. The soil was destabilized. This collapse is on the HOA. Karen ran up to me, soaked and panicked. We didn't mean this. It wasn't supposed to happen. I shook my head. You ignored my warnings. You thought building over my property would go unnoticed. Emergency crews arrived, helicopters hovered, and news vans pulled up. By midday, the story was on every local channel. HOA construction caused a street collapse, damages in the hundreds of thousands. Homeowners were furious, demanding accountability from the HOA. I got calls from city officials and engineers. The inspector explained, they'll be paying for damages, reconstruction, and fines. Your water line was untouched, but their negligence cost them dearly. Weeks later, the HOA scrambled to make amends. Legal battles were filed, and Karen stepped down amid public outcry. The street was repaired, the new houses partially demolished, and every resident who had doubted me now knew the truth. The water line wasn't just plumbing. It was the line that saved the neighborhood from worse disaster. I returned to my porch, sipping coffee as the sun broke through the clouds. The trees whispered in the wind. The line ran strong, and I smiled quietly to myself. Sometimes, standing your ground isn't just about being right. It asks about making sure the world sees it too.